Welcome back. Mr. Andukam, you were saying something about, I think, ecological fund before we went on that break?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So you could just conclude your thoughts on that.
Yes. As I was saying that I know there's a lot being done in collaboration between the federal and state government, especially the efforts of the Lagos state government. Over the years, there have been a lot of work to see how we can do some work on the Bar Beach. And I was giving an example that any coastline in many parts of the world, they're all facing the same problem. Some years ago in Dublin, or at the Dublin Water Conference, I think that was in 1991 or 92, we had time to look at the coastline of Dublin. They're also facing the same issue. But there have been a lot of embankment built up, as Dr. Kujumi just said. We need to see how we can protect our coastline. And as I was also saying, beyond the embankment, there are other environmental issues too. Even those who are going to enjoy the coastline in terms of tourism and all that, what comes out from the ocean debris, the plastic, the bottles, as was said earlier, there must be need for control in all those areas. And being part of the global community, we need to work together with the global community, participate actively in those conventions and treaties through the Conference of Secretaries, and see how we can collectively address a lot of our environmental problems, not just in the coastal area, also as we have in the middle and upper part of the Nigerian system, that is our country.
Okay. Dr. Abolo, when you talk about protecting our coastlines and all of that, what comes to my mind is the fact that, especially around our coastal cities, we're claiming land from the water to build our homes. And there's this saying that says water would always find its place. Yes. Right? And then you still look at the rise in water levels because of the melting glaciers. So at the end of the day, there's an attack on the water by man to get a place to live, and the water is looking for where to find its place. So how do we tie all of this in to ensure that every part of creation stays in its place?
And humans are safe.
And humans are safe, yes.
Yes.
You know, it's lack of understanding. That is why we're talking about climate change literacy, because that's a clear example of lack of understanding concerning the global climate change action, what is happening. You want to reclaim land from water. You're not taking the water away. You're just pushing the water. And the water is going to go to somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And that place has the least resistance, and it's going to cause more damage. And then you come back and you say you want to fix that damage, and then you're pushing the water away, and the water is going somewhere else. So that is why it's very important that decision makers, those who make these policies, need to be brought up to base with climate change action. We're talking about environmental issues, but let's look at the big picture, the climate change, what is happening, and how these things are interconnected. So we'll go back to the literacy first. You must teach people at all levels, at the corporate levels. You must teach lawmakers. They need to understand what is global warming. We had a workshop for a state, I don't want to mention the state, on global warming, and we realized how much those who make decisions don't know about an environment. So how do you expect the person who is going to sign off on such a project to understand the impact if they do not know? So basically, we need to go back to the drawing board. We need to teach ourselves. We need to upgrade ourselves. You know, Magic Kudumi was talking about the next generation. Yes, we do, but the decision makers are our generation. So we need to do more stuff like NIOTA is doing. We have the EdFile. We have TVC is doing a lot of stuff. And then part of the laws needs to include the ERM, you know, environmental risk management, in the processes that organizations go through. The banks need to understand that. When you bring a project for a bank to approve, I'm sure it's a bank that approved that project, a bank is going to finance it. The bank needs to look at the fine prints, the environmental fine prints, and say, no, this is going to cause more problems, and I don't want to put my money there. So there's a huge disconnect somewhere, and we need to bridge that gap through education, through literacy.
Talking about education, yesterday we went out to do a recording, and the recording was how some people were collecting waste for recycling. So we just told this young man, okay, you're going to collect waste, we'll follow you. So we followed him, and we got to where he was collecting the waste, and there were like 6 people that came out to stop us. I said, no, what we are doing is we're just videoing how he's collecting your wastes for recycling. Now, in that kind of situation, how do we educate? Because someone tweeted here, Khalil says, the average man on the street does not understand the essence of Earth Day. He doesn't understand. I mean, for those people to stop us from recording someone who is collecting their wastes for their own good, for recycling, means they do not really understand what this is all about. How many people out there understand the need to even take care of this little thing as their waste?
Excellent question. Excellent question. It's a cultural disposition. You know, in days gone by, we didn't really have too much problem with waste. You know, I'm talking of the previous generation in the rural areas and the villages and so on and so forth, because most of our waste was organic. You know, the moi, you know, it comes in the leaf. You know, and you put the leaf in the bush, it goes back into the ground. Even the gourds that we used for drinking, those are, you know, organic waste. So, you know, our orientation had never been that, okay, waste is a bad thing. Waste is something that doesn't just perish anyhow. So
this is the tech age, Desmond.
This is the tech age, but unfortunately, it's not in our genes, because technology arrived a little bit later on our shores. So, you know, education, awareness. It's we really need to intensify it on all stratas. You know, and use the tech to get it across. Like this wonderful organization, millions and millions of people will tune in. We need to have adverts. You know, the management of this station hopefully will actually dedicate some free time, airtime for actual, you know, adverts that will help to educate the people about this reality. And I think for the urban area, of course, waste is one of the major issues that needs to be tackled, and needs to be tackled very, very aggressively. I'm glad that the federal government are actually putting a strong eye on the plastic pollution, because the reality of plastic is that it doesn't disappear. And we have a classic example right here in this studio, because this bunch of flowers has been here for several years now, and it's still looking quite fresh. Plastic doesn't deteriorate, and it could still be here for another 100 years. That's the way plastic is. So it needs to be handled very, very well. And what's happening in the oceans, you know, we're talking about the seas and so on, is that they say in another, by 2050, the weight of plastic in the oceans will be more than the weight of the fish in the oceans. So we need to really, really tackle this. So much of our waste goes into our seas, and that's why off our coast, the fishermen are complaining that the catch of the fish is less, and some of the big fish they catch have this plastic waste inside their stomachs. So it's an issue that needs to be addressed, and I think awareness and education is one of the ways.